Life on Earth as we know it depends on the health of forest ecosystems. Nevertheless, they are more under threat today than ever before. Due to globalization and climate change, disturbances like windstorms, wildfires, and floods have increased. Pests and pathogens are another threat with rising prominence. When left unchecked, they can cause mass outbreaks of diseases that decimate entire tree populations. But which species should we look out for and why? How can we detect and manage their spread? What innovative technologies can play a part in this process? Look no further than the ForestHealth podcast for the answers. This new series is brought to you by the FORSAID project, our Horizon Europe initiative looking to establish a new standard for the early monitoring of forest pests and pathogens. My name is Andree Cappellari and I am the project manager of ForSaid. For this first episode, I am joined by its coordinator and my colleague at the University of Padua, Professor Andrea Battisti, a forest entomologist with over 30 years of experience in the field. Welcome, Andrea, and thank you for joining us in this new format.
Thank you very much for inviting me to talk about this project. Very happy to contribute what I can.
In any given forest, navigating among the great diversity of species to determine which can threaten tree health can be a challenge. How would you categorize a forest pest when attempting to do so?
Yeah, first of all, your short introduction outlined what is a forest. The forest is something which is, of course, in our mind all days, but we are living outside of the forest. The human species is something which left the forest long time ago to occupy the empty space, the free habitats. But then we recognize that the forest provides a lot of services to humans. And that is why we need to care for it. And caring for forest means also caring about protecting trees from their enemies. And that is what FORSAID is doing. It's taking care of tree health, either when they are growing in a forest, but also when they are growing in the urban settings or other sites that are very close to where humans live. What we are doing, basically, it is to address issues that are raised by the occurrence of these organisms, especially when they are causing harm to trees and indirectly reducing the services that trees provide to the ecosystems in general and the human society at a larger approach.
How damaging can the effect of such group of organisms be if allowed to multiply and spread?
Yeah, of course, these are, voracious. I mean, as long as we are used to feed on a very rich food, that is the one that we are having every day in our meals, you should think about that the tree is not as nutritious to the organisms that they want to eat them because they are very well defended. And so an insect or a fungus should eat a lot of them to accumulate energy enough to grow and reproduce. That is why insects and fungi are so damaging, because they have to eat a lot. They have to eat a lot because their food is not high quality. By doing that, they cause damage. They cause what we call damage, but necessarily not for the tree, because in the natural forest ecosystems, this happens every day for thousands and thousands of species, except when those species that are unwanted, they come.
Now, FORSAID aims to prevent such scenarios by working to address the proliferation of selected pest and pathogen species. What informed the choice of the 10 that are currently being researched by the project?
Basically, when you have a pest which is invading a new ecosystem because it is exotic to that ecosystem, it doesn't find all the enemies, all the regulating factors that are also called mortality factors that reduce them to low density. Most of the insects, I would say 99.9%, are taken under control by natural factors. And those are working on every condition, in every ecosystem. But that is not happening when you have an invasive species, because it's like to take somebody from a different continent and introduce into an habitat where there are no enemies. And so by the reproduction, they can increase in number very quickly and cause what we call damage. We are taking care of those very few organism species that are also called quarantine species, because they are unwanted in the introduction area.
So did you consider different target groups like insects?
Yes, of course. These are all very different categories of organisms. We can start from bacteria, viruses, nematodes, fungi, insects, vertebrates. All taxonomic groups, they could have the potential to become invasive when they are introduced in a new area. But so in our project specifically, because of the strict regulations that are imposed by European Union, we decided to select a small group of them that are the most harmful or potentially harmful to the forest ecosystem in the European Union.
So can you tell us something about the species that you selected for the FORSAID project?
Oh yeah, of course. The one very relevant now, it is a small thing, is a nematode, which is a kind of roundworm. And as many roundworms that are in the world, this one has specialized to colonize pine trees. And and when it enters a pine trees, it is kind of clogging the transportation way of the tree, so that the tree is getting killed by this occlusion of the transport system for the sap, for the water, basically, and that is something which is highly problematic, especially in Western Europe. It has been introduced about 20 years ago or even more in Portugal, and then it has expanded to Spain, and very, very recently, last year, to southwestern France. Then we can switch to other species. There are species associated with, again, with other conifers or broadleaf trees. But for example, on pines, there is also fungus, which is a Fusarium fungus, which is from North America. It has been introduced also in Europe, but is still localized, for which we are dealing with the measures to contain the very early stage by detecting early. So that is the major, most important things for all those organisms that are so-called quarantine organisms, that you need to stop them early in order to prevent that they can spread over large areas. So, but early detection, which works for all of them, it is the most difficult thing to do, and it is where FORSAID project is concentrating. Another example for among the 10 species selected, but that there could be even more, it is the emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer is a beetle which is killing ash trees, and it has been introduced from Asia to North America, where it caused a very large mortality. Almost all the ash tree species growing in North America were affected by this beetle, and it is now extending to Europe as well, as it has reached Russia and then Belarus and Ukraine, and it is slowly entering Europe. So what we want to do, we want to have tools that could inform managers when the beetle is reaching a given spot, in order to be reactive very quickly, in order to reduce the probability that this beetle will expand and cause further damage. And once more, when you get them in your hand, when you have the agent in your hand, either on a sample or as an individual, you may just be helped by these new technologies to get the correct identification for them. Because even if you think about, there are several quarantine species, they are so-called unwanted, but there are many others belonging to very closer taxa, other species that are almost difficult, impossible to discriminate by naked eye, and so they need sophisticated technologies to separate whether they are the really unwanted species that we want to fight, or are the native species very similar to the quarantine one that we have already in our ecosystems, and we want to keep them because, of course, they are well inserted in the forest ecosystem and they don't cause any damage. By the way, they are part of the trophic chain, which is the basic element for continuing the survival of those forest ecosystems.
So all these kind of new technologies can really help forest managers detecting these pests and these pathogens early.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope that will be the future. Having technologies and approaches that are addressing each of those highly relevant species for the European Union forests. But we are aware that the process is not over, because once the technology will be available, there will be more species ready to come, because the invasion is a process that we cannot stop. And we should be aware that all the technologies that we are developing now, they should be produced in such a way that they can be really adjusted to new questions, to new species. So the effort of FORSAID is, of course, yes, design specific technologies, but keeping the mind open to the possibility that those approaches could be extended to other models, because we don't know what would be the next knocking to the door and entering the European Union because of trade, basically, And not only, also because of climate change, because climate change is another big player. As long as with the warming, with the increasing of temperature, the climate of Europe is getting more and more, suitable for the establishment of species that so far were just stopped by the low temperature. So we are facing now more and more problems of species coming from tropical and subtropical countries, for which we know very little, because in most cases they are not serious pests in the country of origin, but they could transform themselves in very aggressive pests in the country of introduction, simply because they find the empty space, enemy-free space, where they can easily grow by causing damage. So every technology that is developed could be should be generic enough to be potentially applied also to the future quarantine species that we will have.
So thank you very much, Andrea, for this insightful conversation. And to all of you who joined us for the first episode, a big thank you to you as well. We are really excited to start this journey with you. And look out for more episodes of ForestHealth in the month to come. And follow FORSAID Progress on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and our website, forsaid.eu. Until next time, bye!